outside looking in with my business goggles, I think the WNBA is bankrupt. Oh, I think they hella bankrupt. I think they've been bankrupt. I think it's so bankrupt that the owners is just using the WNBA as a tax write-off. They gotta be. It gotta be a tax write-off. It is dead cap over there, bro. It gotta be.
Let's take off the jersey for a second. Let's take off the cap, the fandom, the politics of support. Let's put on a different set of lenses, the business goggles. And when you look at the Women's National Basketball Association from the outside, peering into its ledgers and its projections, a chilling, inescapable conclusion starts to form. This league isn't just struggling. It's not merely in the red. From a pure, cold balance sheet perspective, the WNBA is bankrupt. I think it's hella bankrupt. I think it's been bankrupt. The financial vitals suggest a reality so dire that the most logical explanation for its continued existence is that for the majority of its owners, it's not an investment, it's a sophisticated tax write-off. It has to be. It is pure, dead cap on the sports ledger, a bleeding asset propped up by artificial life support. Consider this singular, staggering data point: $40 million. That's the reported loss for the 2024 season. Let that number resonate. $40 million in the negative. In a single year, while the league's publicity engine was broadcasting a completely different story, one of sold-out arenas, meteoric jersey sales, and unprecedented cultural relevance. That $40 million figure isn't a typo. It's not anti-women's sports propaganda. It's the uncomfortable.
This year, I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think that's why they're holding out. The ladies want some of that $2 billion media right there. Here's the thing. We don't know how the media...
Comfortable, whispered truth that NBA investors, the very men signing the checks, are finally beginning to murmur about publicly. And the timeline is what makes this diagnosis terminal. We're not discussing the understandable growing pains of a league in its infancy, year 3, year 5. We are dissecting the financials of an institution in its 28th season, a professional sports league that has, by every credible account, never turned an annual profit. Not once, not ever. For nearly 3 decades, it has operated at a loss. That isn't a startup phase. That's a permanent state of financial ICU. The ownership structure reveals the depth of the dependency. The NBA itself owns nearly 60% of the WNBA directly. When you add in the individual stakes held by NBA team owners like Mark Cuban, Ted Leonsis, or the owners of the Knicks and Lakers who back Liberty and Sparks investments, that collective control skyrockets to an estimated 75%. This isn't a partnership of equals. This is a parent company, fully bankrolling a subsidiary that has never learned to walk on its own. It's permanent life support. And the life support comes with strings that are currently a noose around the league's future profitability. According to sources familiar with the financial pipelines, the WNBA owes the NBA so much accumulated debt from decades of subsidies that even if the league finally records its first black ink, that profit won't go to the players or into league expansion. It will be funneled directly back to the NBA to pay down this monumental tab. The first fruits of success are already promised to creditors. The language used by those close to the investor class is particularly telling. The sentiment isn't just frustration or disappointment. The word that surfaces is ecstatic. NBA team owners are described as ecstatic at the prospect of pulling the plug. That's the language of relief, of finality. It's the feeling you get when you've been waiting for a socially acceptable moment to end a drain on resources that has persisted for generations. Now, enter the supposed savior, the $2.2 billion media rights deal set to commence in 2026. On the surface, this is the Deus ex machina, a massive cash infusion from ESPN, Amazon, and others that promises to right the ship, fund player salaries, and finally create a sustainable model. This is the gleaming horizon everyone is pointing toward. But dig one layer deeper, and this deal may be less a life raft and more a weighted anchor tied to wildly optimistic projections. That $2.2 billion was negotiated at the peak of a phenomenon, The Caitlin Clark effect. It bet on that growth curve, the record-shattering NCAA ratings, the feverish draft night, the sold-out road games continuing in a straight line forever. But we're already seeing the cracks in that assumption. While regular season games featuring Clark were ratings bonanzas, overall postseason viewership for 2025 showed a dip. The audience has proven to be fickle, player-specific, and event-driven, not loyal to the league as a holistic product. Media conglomerates are not charities. That $2.2 billion is an investment demanding a return. If the ratings consistently fail to hit the benchmarks upon which the deal was calculated,
until Caitlin Clark got here, I'ma keep it real. Ain't no ducking, ain't no hiding from me. I came when greatness came. Now, I'm pretty sure there's many of you that's in the same situation as me. So I did not know this league been going through growing pains for the last 30 damn years. How the hell do you go through growing pains for 30 years? Please explain that to me. And then how the hell do you not turn a profit for 30 years?
those contracts contain clauses, renegotiation, triggers, opt-outs, ratchets that reduce the payout. The league's financial future is now hitched to the volatile star of must-see TV, and history shows that such lightning is notoriously difficult to bottle twice. Let's crystallize the current financial picture, because it's even more paradoxical than the loss figure suggests. The 2024 season, the so-called greatest season ever, saw total league revenue estimates range between $100 million and $200 million. That's a massive jump, worthy of headlines. But operating costs, player salaries, travel, arena leases, marketing, front office staff are so prohibitively high that even at the top end of that revenue estimate, the league still bled $40.50 million. Think about the profound failure that represents. In its absolute best year, with more attention, more sponsorship interest, and more fan engagement than at any point in its 28-year.
Hella bankrupt. I think they've been bankrupt. I think it's so bankrupt that the owners is just using the WNBA as a tax write-off. They gotta be. It gotta be a tax write-off. It is dead cap over there, bro. It gotta be. Could you imagine being a WNBA owner and you're sitting there like, damn, year after year after year? Well, hell, it's just turning into a tax write-off at this point because they haven't turned a profit. Then greatness came, which is Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark comes.
History. The WNBA still lost a sum that would bankrupt most businesses. If you cannot find profitability in your peak moment, when exactly do you expect to find it? This isn't a sustainability problem. It's a fundamental, baked-in business model problem. The cost of doing business as a top-tier professional sports league simply outstrips the revenue the product can generate in the current market. This brings us to the quiet, tense war brewing behind the scenes. The collective bargaining agreement, CBA, negotiations. The players, rightly emboldened by the league's new visibility and the looming media deal, opted out of their current agreement. They extended the old deal through 2025 as a holding pattern, retaining their legal right to strike a right they have, notably, not exercised. Instead, there's a strategic silence, a holding out, by key figures within the Players Association. While internet speculation initially wrongly targeted Caitlin Clark, the significant fact is that no veteran player stepped forward to clarify the situation. That silence is a negotiation tactic. The players are waiting, and what they are waiting for is clearly a direct share of that $2.2 billion media rights windfall. They want a true revenue-sharing model, a piece of the gross, not just incremental bumps to the salary cap. Their argument is one of equity and value. We are the product. The money is coming in because of us. We deserve a significant cut. The owners and the NBA, looking at 28 years of red ink and hundreds of millions in sunk costs, have a very different perspective. They see players who, thanks to the last CBA, have seen minimum salaries rise from $76,000 to over $100,000, with Supermax deals touching $250,000. They see a league that still loses tens of millions annually. Their argument is one of brutal arithmetic. You cannot share profits that do not exist. You cannot share revenue when expenses still consume it all, and a huge portion of that new revenue is already obligated to pay off the debt that kept your league alive. Both sides have a moral point. The players are world-class athletes, generating value, and deserve to be compensated as such. The owners, investors, have a fiduciary responsibility to stop hemorrhaging money. But only one side has the immutable, unforgiving logic of math on its side. The league's revenue, even post-2026, will first service its massive debt and cover its still too high operational costs. The profit available for sharing is a phantom, a future promise based on projections that have failed to materialize for 3 decades. This leads to the uncomfortable central catalyst of this entire modern conversation, the Caitlin Clark anomaly. With the utmost respect to the legends Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, Maya Moore, Elena Del Dunn, Breanna Stewart, who built the league with their sweat and excellence, a hard truth remains. Through all of their primes, through championship runs and iconic moments, the league lost money. Every single year. Clark changed the fundamental equation. She didn't just bring existing women's basketball fans. She dragged millions of casual sports fans, college basketball loyalists, and cultural observers into the WNBA orbit. For a moment, she made profitability seem plausible. But herein lies the new, equally dangerous problem. The data suggests these fans came for Caitlin Clark, the phenomenon, not for the WNBA, the institution. They followed the individual, not the league. A business model dependent on the health, popularity, and continued employment of a single individual is not a business model, it's a high-stakes gamble. It's the antithesis of sustainable. What happens if she gets injured? What happens when she eventually retires? The Clark effect exposed both the potential ceiling and the terrifying fragility of the league's economics. So, where does this leave us as we barrel toward the pivotal year of 2026? The media deal activates. A new CBA must be signed. Expansion franchises in Golden State and Toronto are slated to launch, adding more costs before they add proven revenue. And beneath this all, the foundational question remains unanswered. Can the WNBA's economics ever truly work? The players are negotiating from a position of perceived strength, the strength of cultural momentum. But the owners hold the position of actual strength, the strength of controlling the capital and the power to withdraw it. The NBA can, at any point, decide the subsidy ends. The WNBA has no independent revenue stream large enough to survive without it. When your primary investors view your franchise not as a growth asset, but as a tax write-off, a deliberate loss to offset gains elsewhere, you are not a business. You are a financial instrument, a line item on an accounting sheet, and when that deduction becomes less useful than the alternative, the instrument is discarded. The coming months are a tightrope walk over an abyss. If the players push too hard for a revenue share that the crippled economics cannot yet bear, they could trigger the very collapse they seek to avoid. If the owners, seeing the post-Clark ratings normalization, decide the path to profitability is still a decade-long trek through more 9-figure losses, they may choose contraction over expansion. The phrase ecstatic to pull the plug will move from a whisper to a policy. The $2.2 billion deal is not salvation money. It's borrowed time, purchased with the credibility of the NBA guarantee and the hope that a corner has finally been turned. But if the ratings prove the Clark boom was a unique event, not a new baseline, the broadcast partners will come for their pound of flesh. They will demand renegotiation. They will join the chorus of investors asking for a return. The ultimate, haunting question that the business goggles force us to ask is this: what if the league's best year ever is also its financial worst? What if losing $40 million amid sold-out crowds and viral moments is not the bottom, but the peak of its economic efficiency? What happens when the owners run the projections to 2030 and see only more red, even with the media cash? The players deserve more. They deserve arenas filled with fans who know their names, salaries commensurate with their skill, and a sustainable league to house their legacy. But deserve and can afford are parallel lines that have never met in the WNBA's history. The league is trapped in a dependency on NBA largesse, on the volatility of star power, and on the hope that a 30-year trend will spontaneously reverse. This CBA negotiation is not merely about percentages and cap holds. It is a referendum on viability itself. It is the moment where aspiration collides with accounting. The clock is ticking, the debt is compounding, and the patience of the men who have written $1 billion in checks over 28 years is evaporating. Year 30 is not just another season. It is the brink. So, what do you think happens? Can this league finally solve its 30-year equation? Or is the mathematical reality too powerful to overcome? Drop your take below. The final buzzer on this financial game hasn't sounded yet, but the shot clock is winding down.